Folks at home, welcome back to the Backyard Bass Pond, and one of the most frequently asked questions on my channel is how much did it cost to build your backyard pond? So all of you are in luck because today we're going to break down all the expenses on building a pond like this. And as a bonus, we're also going to talk about the expenses of our 300-gallon aquarium as well as how much it costs to just raise a pet bass in general, for instance, how much they eat every week. But first we're going to dive right into the backyard pond. And before we break down the cost, if you're looking to build a pond, I would highly recommend a company like Aquascape because not only do they build the best ponds, in my opinion, they also make it so simple. So you get on the phone with someone like Ed, you explain to him the size of your pond and the features you want, like a waterfall, and basically anything you pitch to them, they can make it happen. And one of the best parts of working with a company like Aquascape is they build all of the pond parts. So once you've decided on the pond details, they come up with a complete list of all the components needed to build that pond. And so we had Greg and Ed fly in from Chicago, and right before they got here, they shipped all of our pond parts. And we had this big pallet full of parts as well as a couple different liners. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the price of some of the components involved. So the pond we had in mind was roughly a 25 by 30 foot. It also included a stream and a waterfall. So the total cost of the liner was $1,350. And in this video, we're just going to go over the key components or the high dollar components, and then I'll kind of give you a total of all the others involved. So next up is going to be the skimmer, which was $500, and then the biofalls filter was $750. And a biofalls filter is basically what's at the top of the waterfall where you pump the water up to it, and you have some bio balls and media in there as well. So we had two pumps in our pond. One of them is Aqua Surge 2000 to 4000 that cost $550, and the other one is Aqua Surge 4000 to 8000 that cost $670. And one of the pumps just pumps the water from the lower pond level up to the waterfall, and the other one is used as a recirc pump just to recirculate the water. And one thing I really like about the pumps is that they're remote controlled, so you can control how much water flows over your waterfall. Next up, we got underwater lighting. So total, including the waterfall and the underwater pond lights, we're looking at around $750. And in the water treatment department, we have an automatic dosing system, an ion gen system, and the bio balls, and the total cost of those are around $840. So there are several other small components, but the total cost of all the pond parts, not including the rocks and gravel and things, was $9,069. So next up, we're going to talk about the rocks and boulders in the pond, but before we get into that, I realize that a lot of you are probably watching this video to see what it would cost you to put a pond in your backyard. So I'm going to do my best to explain the average cost of a typical pond or a component that goes in a pond, and then other areas where we kind of splurged and spent more than you would typically have to. And for those of you that are new to the channel, my wife and I have full-time jobs, and most of our YouTube content is based around our pets and our pet bass and our pond. So any of the income that we get from that, we don't really need that to live off of, so we try to put it back into the pet. So anything we can do to provide them with a better lifestyle, we try to do that. So you may think in some of these cases, man, that was over the top or unnecessary, but I kind of feel like these fish are the star of the show, so we give them whatever we possibly can to provide the healthiest and happiest lifestyle. With our Aqua Blue stones, we definitely spent more than you would have to building a pond, and I really love these Aqua Blue stones. The problem is, we live in Alabama, and the Aqua Blues are in Wisconsin. So we had to pack an 18-wheeler full of Aqua Blue stones and boulders and drive them from Wisconsin all the way down to the southern tip of Alabama, and the total cost of that was around $7,000. And the reason I want to point this out is because you could build a pond with your local rocks for a lot cheaper, probably a third of the cost. But this is where people like Ed from Aquascape really help you out because they have so many resources, they have all the prices on hand, and they can help you build the pond you want in your budget. Alright, so we had the Aqua Blue stones coming in at $7,000. Next up was the river rock that we used. That's all of the smaller rock. We had to get 3 different sizes of it, but we had a local company that could do that and deliver it. Total cost on that was $1,670. We had to get 1 dump truck full of topsoil. That cost $319, and this was pretty much to put on top of all this red clay around the pond so we could build some nice plant life. And speaking of plants, we got all of our plants for a total of $1,370. That included everything that went around the pond. So next up is the machinery to build the pond, and you're looking for something around a Cat 303 to a Cat 308, as well as a skid steer. So the total cost for us on all the machinery was $4,400. So next up is the labor cost of the pond, and that's where it gets really hard to break down because a lot of these aquascape contractors came in and helped me build this pond for free. And that just shows what type of people work for aquascape, and that's why I would highly recommend you get an aquascape contractor because of the type of people they are. But just in general, I would say on a pond like our size, it took 10 to 12 guys 2 full days to build. That's one number I'm not going to be able to really get dialed in for you. But overall, once you factor in all of the small stuff that's really not worth mentioning, the total cost just to build the pond was $28,476. And now let's get into what it takes to repair the backyard and to maintain this pond. So if you all watched the pond build, you all know that a week after we built the pond, we had a hurricane come through and major flooding occurred, which was bad at the time, but it also keyed us in to what we needed to do. And I'm thankful that we got to see that before we put the fish in. Once the pond flooded, it basically turned into chocolate milk, and we knew that we had to keep all the water from rushing in off the hills. So we put in 2 different drain systems and about 60 feet of corrugated pipe that led to our main drain. And the total cost on that was $1,800. And after moving all the pond building equipment out of the backyard, we basically had no grass and it was just a big mud pile. So we hired some landscapers to bring in a fresh load of topsoil so we could cover the entire backyard with sod. And we also needed to light the pond up, so we got them to put in some landscape lights as well as a sprinkler system to water all of the pond plants and all of the new sod. And the total cost for all of this was $8,700. So now let's talk about a couple of expenses that aren't necessarily required in building a pond, but something that we spent money on. First up is going to be the 2 underwater cameras that we put in the pond. These were a couple of specialty cameras that we bought from a security company that allow you to film underwater, and they also project some LED lights out there so you can see pretty good at night. And both of the cameras overall cost $958, which leads us to our next cost of being able to live stream these 2 cameras to you 24/7. So we pretty much bought a gamer PC for $1,640 that would be able to take in that much data, process it, and put it out on live stream. And if you're interested in that, you can go check out our other channel, BamaBass Pond. We do a 24/7 underwater live stream. And another thing that wasn't necessarily required was installing a security system to just keep check on everything, especially these pesky blue herons that come around and try to eat your fish. But the total cost on the entire security system installation was $2,814. Which is going to bring our grand total to $44,388. So next up, we're going to break down the cost on our aquariums, and we have 2 separate aquariums. One is a 55-gallon planted tank, and the other is a 300-gallon aquarium. And for the 55-gallon, you can basically buy those at any pet store, but if you're going to get something the size of 300 gallons, you have to custom order these, and we ordered ours from Fish Tank Direct. And it took about 4 to 6 months for them to build it. And we bought a 300-gallon acrylic tank that was 96 by 24 by 30 with an oak canopy and stand, and the total cost for that was $5,693, and that also included the sump system down below. And we had to purchase the lighting separately. We bought 3 Kessel 90-watt Tuna Sun lights. They were $399 a piece times 3 for a total of $1,199. Also had to buy a controller with that. That was right at $100. And we put 3 500-watt titanium heaters down in the sump. $39.95 a piece times 3 for $119. Next up, we had to purchase the substrate to put in the aquarium, and it took 13 20-pound sacks of Eco Complete for a total of $309. So after we got the substrate in, we bought $547 worth of aquarium plants, and most of these ended up going in the 55-gallon aquarium, but we wanted to put some in the 300-gallon aquarium and just test it out. So along with that, we ended up buying a complete CO2 system, which had a pH controller, a carbon doser, and this was to make it optimal for that plant life to grow in the 300-gallon aquarium. But unfortunately, plants don't do so well with big fish like Sheriff. He uprooted most of them, so we kind of gave up on it after a while. We purchased a CO2 system from aquariumplants.com for a total of $801. And next up, we had to get some current flowing in the 300-gallon aquarium, and this is something we definitely splurged a little bit and bought 2 Ecotech Marine Vortec wave makers. And the reason we bought these in particular is because it was the only wave makers on the market that did not have to have electricity going down into the aquarium. We've heard stories about where people came in and saw all their fish dead because they got electrocuted. So the cool thing about these wave makers is that the power head is on the outside of the aquarium. But not only that, you could do a lot of cool things with ramping up the wave maker throughout the day to give it different current levels to kind of simulate what it would be like to live in a river system or something like that. The total cost for the 2 wave makers was $652. And after that, there were a lot of low-cost items like Purigen bags, chlorine remover, driftwood, filters and things that we're not going to go into the price of all of them, but they totaled around $500. So now let's talk about what it takes to maintain and keep these fish alive, basically how much it costs to feed them. So the first thing we did, we went out and bought a 100-gallon bait well, and the total cost, including the filter and everything, was around $432. And what we started out doing was just going down to the local bait shop buying crappie minnows, and we'd store them in there and feed them, but we quickly realized that was definitely not the most cost-effective way of feeding them. So there's a place called Anderson Fish Farm, and I believe they're in Arkansas, and they will overnight 1,000 golden shiners to you for $115. And it takes all of our fish now about 2 weeks to eat these. If you multiply that out, that costs about $2,990 a year. And there are other ways of feeding fish, like if you live close to a river, you go out with a cast net and catch them. But bass especially like to eat live bait, and we hadn't had a lot of luck transporting thread fins into the pond and keeping them alive. So for now, we're just ordering them online. So the grand total of the total pond cost is $44,388, and the total aquarium cost is $9,820, and the total food bill for these fish over the last 3 years is $9,402, and that gives us a grand total of $63,610 for raising all of our pet fish. And the number is higher than that because if you factored in all the electricity for the pond pumps and lights in the aquarium. But for this video, I just wanted to give you a ballpark figure, so it's probably somewhere in the $60,000 to $70,000 range. That's the amount that we've spent on these pets since the day we caught them. But the coolest part about it is literally watching our pet bass Moby eat his first minnow, and then a couple years later being this big aggressive bass that he is. And that really is something special. And I do appreciate all of you that have followed along throughout this whole process of building the pond, and even back before that during the Tank Tuesday days when we were raising them inside in the aquariums. But I'm going to do my best to leave some links down in the description below for some of these pond and aquarium parts. Make sure you're subscribed because Bonnie and Clyde are spawning in the backyard pond as we speak. But I hope y'all enjoyed this one, and we will see you all next time.
Were pretty looking people, but I can tell you people, they were the devil's children.